I didn't prepare any, like, you know how you do like a weird introduction or a joke or anything like that.
I love how you say that, like I actually prepare for my
you actually went to like ChatGPT and did like a great little introduction earlier.
Yes, I did that. That was classic. That was actually
Did you though?
I did it.
Did you
That was great. That was a good one.
If you went to ChatGPT, did you do it though?
Well, so long as you put it into Quillbot to make it look like my own writing after it.
What is Quillbot?
Quillbot is the...
Did you get that from the students?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Oh, is that the thing with Ace? Anyways, guys, speaking of an 80% start, welcome to the Board Game Gateway, episode 31. This house rules. I am Ralph. I am your host for this evening, and to my left we have Neeber.
Hello there.
And to my right I have Damien.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for taking hosting duties away from me tonight.
Yeah, lovely to be here in your own house, Nate.
Yes, back in my own house. But as if you are watching the video, you'll notice this is a bit of a different backdrop. We are in the new version of the studio. My Easter weekend was very busy, and part of that was moving 2 rooms. Our sitting room became our dining room, and our dining room became our sitting room. But as such, I got new shelves. Yeah, it was great, and I've been able to actually make them look pretty. So
it looks amazing. You've done a great job.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Very well done.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to putting the different stuff. So if you're watching on the video, go to our YouTube channel at BG Gateway. You'll see all of the fun stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty proud.
Nothing like a good Calyx, eh?
Oh well, yeah. I have to admit, I'm happy that I've now got 2 of them. So now I'm looking at the empty spaces, going, I could fill that with a few more games.
Damien, I saw your secret earlier. You have board games behind board games now.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I do have a few.
Yes, that's how problems start. Then.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I was like, I did actually want to bring out a couple because I was initially going to be like, okay, well, I have my heavy Euros behind the brass, and then I have. All of my legacy games behind Charterstone. So Charterstone and King's Dilemma is behind it. And then I was going to put all my pirate themed games behind Dead Reckoning. But they just happen to be out in a different shelf. But I'm still tempted to go, you know what, any sea Caribbean theme just goes behind there. So it's like,
I just want to say, bless you. You still have like a system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, on the far left, which if you're watching the video over there, that's my small box corner, the 3 on the left. And my cousin Katie came over the other night and she went, why don't we just color code them? Why don't we put them all so they're black there and white, blue, red, green, and then we just have rando, browny, orange colors at the bottom right.
Look, I appreciate the system. I really like it, but that's not going to last long.
No. I know. Look, Look, maybe I'll have to try and keep it in check a little bit.
But I'll tell you what, we should do that video you talk about where we actually go through your board game shelves soon before it gets all messed up.
We are going to do that.
Yes.
We are actually going to do that for everyone on the podcast. Everyone at some point is going to have to go through all of their collection and explain why they have games. I'm looking forward to it.
That's going to be really good.
That is frightening for me, just quietly.
Yeah, we might have to edit that video down a little bit, but that's all right.
Just a small bit.
But yeah, guys, how was your Easter?
Yeah, it was really good. Very busy. We, myself and Damien, we went to the Board Game BBQ's autumn game day on Easter Saturday.
Yes.
That was a massive day. It was 11 a.m. till 11 p.m.
And how many people were there, you reckon?
There was about 140.
Did they have 2 rooms?
They did have 2 rooms.
They had 3 rooms.
Oh, 3 rooms, that's right. They had a room dedicated for Clock Tower. Which was pretty fantastic. So Blood on the Clock Tower did get a special shout out. So at their venue, so they use Castle Hill RSL as their venue, and they did use the main sort of game, the main sort of convention room. And I think they would have had about 110 people in there.
Just in that room alone.
Just in that room, yeah.
Spillover room had a good anywhere from 20 to 30 people during the main points of the day. Damien went as a volunteer.
Yes.
And so he was helping run a few games throughout the day. And I just went as a spectator / player of games. We played quite a few games. I ended up playing 8 different games throughout the day. Bot Factory, Escape Plan, to name a couple. I got to try a couple of pre-release games. Stoked. And Star Tycoon, which I'm going to have a chat about just in a second. And I also got to play a couple of little other fun games around We also got to meet a couple of designers. We got to meet James Allen, who's the designer of Drift, one of our games that we did a live stream of. Yep. And he's a really nice guy. And I didn't get to play it in person. I was a bit sad. But that was because I was playing another game. But Damo, you were also teaching games throughout the day.
Yeah. So as Nee said, I'm there on sort of as a volunteer. I do help out the barbecue folks every now and then. Great crew that they have over there. But yeah, so I was mostly teaching and helping out and sort of jumping in and helping out people as they were trying to work out what games to play and things like that. And it definitely is it definitely is a ton of fun to do things like that, especially when you get sort of the newer folks coming in who aren't too sure what to play, who say, we've played this game, what do you recommend? I will say there was one scenario where someone asked me, do you know how to play Catan? And it occurred to me, I haven't played Catan in about 6 or 7 years, and I couldn't remember how.
Oh,
so
no.
we had to go look for ringers.
You roll a 7 and you throw it in the bin.
Yeah. So we had to go looking for ringers. So that was...
that's an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah, that one was definitely fun. But...
that's like questions you don't expect to hear at a board game event.
It's kind of weird because I'm generally pretty comfortable teaching people a number of different games, and I thought Catan was one of those ones I just had in the back of my head, not a problem. But the moment the board was on the table, I went, I can't remember how to play.
Yes.
So,
Like, can you teach me?
yes.
Please,
So,
sir.
but otherwise, I was teaching a couple games, so I taught and played Lords of Vegas, which is always amazing. Did teach and play El Grande, which is absolutely brilliant, and I will be talking more about that later on. Also had the opportunity to play some more Cat in the Box and teach that. Got the opportunity to play that with an up-and-coming designer, so Lee Perrett, who is the designer of a hopefully soon-to-be-released board game called Grimwald. Lee was awesome. He was a good value. Absolutely stomped us at trick-taking games. So, yeah, such a great day. It was so good.
That sounds really awesome. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that one. We ended up just having a quiet Easter weekend with friends, but I did get a few board games to the table, which was quite cool. So we'll be touching base about that shortly as well. But welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all the board games that we're playing recently and that we love, and just want to share this hobby with more of you, really, and introduce more and more people to this. And a great way of doing this is by showing you gateway games, which are games that are kind of a good entry point to board gaming. Some people think of board gaming as just your monopolies and things like that, but gateway games are other games that can get your family and friends into this hobby that we all love and enjoy. Today, our gateway game of the week is Cascadia, which is quite an interesting game with pretty little tiles and pretty little animals, and we'll get into that shortly. So look forward to that. But a game that I played on the weekend, which is a game that you guys actually bought for me, was Mafia De Cuba, which is a nice social bluffing game. It's fairly simple as well. I won't go into too much detail, but what I loved about that game is I played that this weekend with 6 non-board gamers, and they loved it. They dived right in. There was one girl that I was playing with, and she could not lie for the life of her. So throwing her under the bus when I was lying was just so much fun. But that was your first time playing it this weekend as well.
Yeah, I got to play it at the Board Game Barbecues day. This was at about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It was literally in the closing stages of the evening.
Yeah, they like to throw the social games towards the end.
Yeah, and rightly so. So I had just come off the back of the game that I'll be talking of later after this. But Mafia De Cuba I played it with 7 brand new people, including Mitch from the Board Game Barbecue crew.
Cool.
And he was the godfather. And, if you don't know about Mafia De Cuba, essentially it's just the godfather, and then he passes around this cigar box of diamonds, and that you can either take some of the diamonds out of the box or none, Or you can take a role out of the box and then claim to be those roles. So the roles are like, you can be a henchman who's on the Godfather side.
Yeah.
You can be like the FBI informant who they want to get accused of stealing diamonds, and if they do, he springs the trap and he's the lone winner. Or you can be the driver. So the driver is like whoever the guy on my right is. I want him to win because he's the guy, And so, but literally the game is just look in box, take some stuff out, pass the box on, and then it comes back to the Godfather, and he'll see whether or not he'll eventually see how many diamonds have been taken.
Yeah.
But then if you take diamonds, so in this game we had up to 3 of us could take diamonds essentially, or maybe more. When you take diamonds, not everybody wins. Only the person who took the most diamonds wins. So you're trying to take the most amount of diamonds without being caught, and that in of itself makes this game, because
so
you're
that's
like,
really cool, because you have to remember what's in the box. Yeah, and if you don't, you look pretty suspicious already.
Yeah.
But if you're a thief, you might want to throw the other thief under the bus if you can work out who that is too.
Yeah, like my favorite builds, I called myself, I go, I was sitting to the left of Mitch, I was first pick, and he goes, what was in the box? And I go, call me Johnny Tight Lips, because I ain't no squealer, I ain't saying nothing, boss, right? And I was really tired at this point. I just hammed up the roll. I'm like, I don't care. I was hamming up like I'll tell you something later, boss, once I've got the more information, you see. And I was doing all this random stuff, like pretending to be 1920s gangster, even though this is a Mafia De Cuba. But I loved it.
The Mafia travels.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Damo, you've played it as well. So, look, this game is just stupid fun. It is.
Yeah. Look, it is in many ways a variation on Werewolf and those style of games, but I do like it more than just because I think it has that little bit of role play element. It has that and you have to lean into that, and I think it's where this game definitely shines. If you're someone who is not big on role playing, is not big on just really getting into the game and really enjoying that and interacting with people, you may bounce off it, and I have played Mafia with people who have bounced off the game because that's not them.
Yeah,
they are Eurogamers at heart, and all the power to them. That's great. But if you are the type, especially when it gets to that point in the night, if you've had a beer or if you're just tired and you just go, you know what, we're gonna do this. We're just gonna lie to each other for the next 45 minutes. Mafia De Cuba is great.
What I liked about is a rule that I discovered because we were playing it wrong previously. If you're the last player to get this box in Mafia De Cuba, you can pick to, instead of taking a token or taking a diamond or multiple, you can pick to take nothing, and you become the street urchin. And if the Don says to you, empty your pockets, and you have to reveal that, the game's over and the thief that stole the most still wins. Yeah. But you're just kind of on that person's team in a way. So it's kind of like... It's really tough to determine if that last player is lying or not.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And just to carry on from last episode as well, where we had the Mind Extreme as one of our gateway games. I got that out a few times with 2 different family groups this weekend.
Sweet.
A couple of players that have never played the Mind before as well. And it was too much for those players that have never played the Mind.
The Extreme,
The Extreme version was too much. But those that had... they absolutely loved it as well. So highly recommend that if you have been exposed to the Minds before.
But I still maintain you could absolutely introduce people to the Mind by playing the Mind Extreme, and instead of going to the full 100, you just go to 50.
You can,
and then you say, okay, now you got to feel for the game. Let's play it properly.
Definitely,
I love it. Yeah, I agree.
Just want to move on now to the board game barbecue event themselves. I have been to 2 previously. One day in particular, I was pretty spoiled. I basically followed Damien all day and played on all these tables, so that was really good. He treated me to some Too Many Bones and Lords of Vegas. That was fantastic.
We actually didn't really see each other most of the day, to be honest.
No.
Perfect day then.
Yeah. Great. No, it was... Listen, for me personally, those days tend to be pretty busy, especially when you have the bigger events. Like the day that you mentioned, Ralph.
It was a quieter one.
It was a quieter one. I remember we played a ton of Crocodile as well, and that was fun. That was a really good day. This one was a lot busier. Kind of expected. It's the holidays as well, but for me, the highlight of the day though had to have been teaching 3 people, an oldie, absolute oldie, definitely a goodie, El Grande.
Oh, I love it.
Which was and always remains absolutely amazing.
What is El Grande?
El Grande is arguably the granddaddy of all area control games. So by area control, what we mean is the goal of the game is to control certain parts of the map and to have a majority of troops on that map.
Yeah. Normally, it's like having the most amount of meeples or something in an area,
like that,
or some token or some
dude on the map game.
Kind of, yeah. Except the difference between El Grande and a number of other games is that there is no fighting. It's literally you push cubes on into a region, and then your opponents will try and take those cubes out of that region and disperse you in various ways. The way the game works, simply put, is you are playing a card to auction for turn order. The higher the value, the earlier you go in there for that particular round. And then you basically pick an action card, and that action card then also allows you to put your troops on the map. Super simple, always fantastic, extremely tight.
Sounds really quick.
But yeah, we basically got that done in about 90 minutes with the teach, which was really good.
4 players?
4 players.
3 players, you said.
No, so it was 4. So it was three new players.
Cool.
And it's always a great time. Always a fantastic time. So the only problem with that game, it is woefully out of print.
Oh, yeah.
Woefully out of print.
Typically, area control games are very mean. Is this a mean area control game?
This one's not really mean as such because you don't remove things more so than you do is just move. You don't remove other people's play. Like you can from time to time due to an action card, but generally you're pushing your guys from an adjacent region or other regions into that region to take control.
Yeah,
you're not like going, all of the work that you've done is now kaput. It's like I've now taken majority, and if you want it back, you have to do a little bit more work to get majority.
So it's not as confronting.
No. There's definitely no confrontation in the game. Probably the only real mean elements in the game are, as Nee said, you can move your opponent's
meeples around and out.
They're called caballeros. Move to different parts of the map. The other thing you can do is you can take the king. So the king is a piece on the board, and typically when you place the king in a region, it means that people can only interact with regions directly surrounding the king, but they cannot interact with the region that the king is in. That is a specific rule. In fact, in the actual rulebook, it says the king's region is taboo.
Mm-hmm. Also, any regions that are not directly adjacent. So you can all the work that I've just done, you can now no longer stuff that up unless you want to move the king and spend a turn doing that. So it's like...
So another way to be mean is actually every round there is the king card. And if you choose to take that card, you get to take the action of you can place the king anywhere on the board. So you can actually, in terms of it being mean, biggest air quotes ever.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can take that card and say, okay, I'm going to move the king over here, potentially removing a player's ability to further reinforce a region or completely blocking their region altogether.
Or allow players to only try and stuff up another player's region.
Yes.
So I could say I could put it there, and these are the regions that you're controlling, Ralph, and therefore now every other player, if they're going to be putting dudes down, you're in your regions.
Yeah. I will say that my favorite thing about the game is the Castillo. So there is a little castle on the board. It almost seems unnecessary.
It absolutely is unnecessary.
It absolutely
you
unnecessary.
Put it into a bag or something,
but it doesn't matter.
It's just a little tower.
There is this little tower that's on the board, and instead of putting your caballeros on the map, you can choose to put your caballeros inside the tower. The only rule when you do so is you have to announce how many of your caballeros are going in there. Further to this, I have a house rule. I did enforce it on the weekend just because we had a few new players.
Yep.
But what I'd say is you have to follow the rule and say, yep, you have to announce how many you are putting in there. But moving beyond that, if a player asks you how many did you put in there, the rulebook says you don't have to answer. I've taken a bit of grace with that and said, you can lie about your answer after that.
So no one can see what's in the tower.
Exactly right.
It's a bit of a memory game.
It is. So it's a bit of a memory game.
Is it revealed at the end?
It is. So it's revealed 3 times throughout the game. So
Okay,
every third round, the tower gets revealed, and the tower itself has its own scoring opportunity. That's why it's kind of important. But it's one of those things in this game that it's almost like a sore thumb. It almost looks like it's just been added on at the end, but it works. But it makes the game so great.
What's in the box?
It's that. It's like what's in the box.
Well, because it turns what is a very tight area control game into also you need to figure out how much you're willing to actually put towards this pressure on the board.
Yeah.
But if you don't go for the tower at all, you're going to lose some big points.
Yeah.
So, Damien, it sounds like you've played this game quite a bit.
Yes.
Why was this the highlight of your board game barbecue experience?
Because I am a massive fan of older games. I am a massive fan of games that represent a way of designing board games or a style of board game that hasn't gone, but just is very difficult to find these days. So El Grande is definitely one of those games. It is a very, very simple, very, very refined area control game with no additional bells and whistles. If this was on Kickstarter today, it would be the worst failed campaign on Kickstarter ever because there are no extras. It is a board with bits of wood and a tower. That's it. There's no plastic. There's no
and some cards.
things. And some cards.
A deck of cards.
And a
make
deck
it
of cards.
A metal tower with
You
holographic
absolutely
meeples
could.
and
I'm sure there could be app integration as well and stuff like that. But look, it's a super simple game. It's such a shame that it is so out of print. I really, really do hope that that a reprint and maybe even a complete redesign of the artwork does happen soon. But it is a brilliant game, and to any of our listeners, if you ever get the opportunity to play it, please take the opportunity.
Whilst it's not the same, it is available on BGA, on Board Game Arena.
It is available.
So if you do want to play it on Board Game Arena and you can't find someone or you don't have access to Damien, I do highly recommend playing it on Board Game Arena because it is still just as good to play. Yes, you don't have the tactility of dropping the cubes in the tower and a few other little things, but the game itself is still really tight and still really good on playing BGA.
Yeah, so. I think I'll have to dive in and try that as well. Now, Nee, this was your first kind of board game day outside of like doing GooberCon with your family and friends. What did you think of the event?
I really enjoyed it. My kind of going into the day was I wanted to play games that I had not played before. I did, with the exception of one, which was there was a couple of ladies who actually had a game of Bot Factory out, and
Did you teach them how to play?
I did. I saw them; they were struggling a little bit, and I said, "Hey, ladies, how are you going?" And there's one other person. I said,
it's always fun when you like feel like you can. Help
and I was like, you know what? I wanted to play. I just gotten out of playing Escape Plan. I want to give it just before I come back to Bot Factory. I'd like to give a big shout out to MJ from the volunteer crew, because she was teaching the game and this is one of her favorite games and she was going to be playing it with the group of 5. Now I hadn't booked in and I just mentioned this looks really cool and I just said, look, if one of them doesn't rock up, can I just take that seat? It looks really cool. Escape Plan is a Vlada game?
No, Vital Lacerda.
Yeah, Lacerda game. And I'd like, look, I'd really like to. And she goes, yeah, no problems. And I was standing around watching Damien get ready for his Lord of the Rings play, but also
doing a few push-ups.
Lords of Vegas.
Lords
Sorry,
of Vegas.
not Lords of the Ring. Lords of Vegas play. And I was just standing around waiting.
There's no way in the world I'd play Lord of the Rings.
No.
And finish in a day.
And I was just waiting around just to see if someone didn't rock up. And she just said, look, play. I went, no, I don't want to take your seat because I don't want to take it away from you because, this is your day too. And even though you're lunch, she goes, no, sit down, play.
She was actually escaping.
I've played it a lot. Very well done, Ralph. She goes, I played it a lot. It's one of my favorite games. I'd love you to play it and see why it's one of my favorite games. And I thanked her profusely.
That's pretty genuine. That's really nice.
It was really nice of her to do that. I ended up coming third out of the 5 players. Took about 2.5 hours. And I just need to give her a big shout out because that was my first introduction to the crew and everything was.
It's really nice when you like bump into a genuine person in the board game community as well.
Yeah,
like,
that was
will,
great.
Like give up their spot in a 2.5 hour game. Like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that was really good. So I really enjoyed that. But that's not the game that I want to talk about. I want to have a quick chat about.
Before you dive into that, I want to know what was the highlight for you overall for the game day itself.
Oh, the game! Oh my god! Well, honestly, that was the highlight. That was the highlight. It started off as good as it could get. Because someone literally gave up their seat to let me play in a game that I thought looked pretty cool.
My wife and I went, I think their second game day, and we had a similar experience. We walked in, literally 2 steps in, and someone yelled out, "I have 2 for Furnace," and I was like, I've never played that. You gonna teach us? Yeah. And me and my wife just jumped into a game of Furnace, and we had a great time. It was like the perfect introduction to a game days like that.
Yeah, it was great. So that was that honestly was my highlight. Also, the late night social deduction was great fun too, because you're just the right amount of tired and ready just to have some fun.
I'm really excited to see what this game is.
Yeah, so I want to have a quick chat about this game called Star Tycoon. Now, if you're listening to this and this sounds familiar, what it is, it's a game that has just gone through its Kickstarter phase. It's designed by Peter Sanderson, or that's who I believe so. He is an Australian, and they have successfully kickstarted. They wanted $25,000 and they got $80,000. So
is it still open? Or is it closed?
No, it's closed, but they are going to be doing late backing. Now, I held off because I wanted to back it, but I'm like, I am really holding off on games at the moment unless they pique my interest. But I love Tycoon games on the computer. So as soon as I saw Sci-Fi and Tycoon kind of in the title together,
I'm a sucker for like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Exactly, right? So then one of the community, Kim, said he was doing some testing of it today, or was going to do so, and if anyone wanted to play it. And I saw it and I'm like, yes, please let me play this game. And I played it. We got it to the table at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And we did the teach. And then the game took about 2 hours to 2.5 hours. So what the game is, it's basically a game of unit conversion and planet building and developing. So very simply, you start with a unique race. I was playing as the Kratak Financial Consortium or something like that. Basically, my guys gave me this option of being able to manipulate the stock market. And there is a stock market in this game.
It sounds like it with a name like that.
So there's a stock market, and then so basically the way that you get points is that you have to develop planets. So you have to colonize planets. Each planet will give you a goal that it needs. For example, this planet wants you to be producing 2 brown minerals. This planet wants you to have wants you to be producing 3 science minerals. This planet wants you to produce 1 brown, 1 pirate token, right? So so as you develop or you colonize planets, that gives you what you need to start doing. Then you have the option to buy development cards. The development cards are cards that go underneath those planets, and each planet can only have a certain amount of developments, either 1, 2, or 3. And then those basically give you your income for the rest of the game. So it says, okay, if I was able to put a production of one green, 1 brown, at the beginning of every one of my rounds, I get 1 green, 1 brown, and then I can start adding more and more. And so therefore, I'm not only trying to get my goals, but I'm also trying to figure out my production.
So it's like a little tableau builder.
Yeah, very much a tableau builder with some production. But where the game...
There are elements of it that sound very much like It's a Wonderful World so far.
Yes, it is.
So far, yes.
And it is, and that is a very good comp, but and you'll see why.
There's no stock market in that, right?
No,
no, there isn't.
And this is where the game got why I really piqued my interest.
Apologies, there is a card called it may actually be called stock market.
Look, it may very well, but I know me, and any game where there's a stock market or you can manipulate some sort of stock, he's there.
I've literally been playing Stockpile on BGA, but that's a moot point. Continue on. Now, the stock market is a really big thing. So each of the 5...
Can you say stock market one more time?
No, because my voice is going to be hoarse anyway. Of the 5 main resources, there is a conversion board. So there are 5 production resources. Then there's 1 called energy, and there's 1 called pirate tokens. The 5 production resources start at a trade value of 1 to 1. So you are allowed to, on your turn, trade each token, or each resource once. So you can either turn an energy into that resource or a resource into an energy. And the rate at which you can do that is determined by other players throughout the game, because the stock market doesn't reset. So if I was to turn my 1 green mineral into an energy, that pushes the stock market, down the stock market cube into the energy. So now the next person who wants a green resource can actually go, for one green resource, I can get 2 energy tokens and push it back the other way on the stock market.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yes, right. So you can do that with once per turn for each of the 5 minerals.
Cool.
And why that was cool is my guys. So once I've pushed it once, and you can only ever do a 1 trade. So I can't go, I have 3 green, therefore give me 3 energy.
Yeah.
No, you're only allowed to do it for 1. You can only go whatever the current rate is. You either do 1 and then get the return, or you pay the exorbitant price to keep getting it if you need it. So there's a bit of stock market manipulation here, because if I know that Ralph really wants it, I can get on it and do the trade to make it more expensive coming up into his turn.
That's pretty clever.
My guys, my special ability was I am allowed to do 2 trades of the same resource once per round. So I could say, you know what, I really need brown. And I got this in the final round of the game, which was the brown was worth, for 1 brown resource, I could shift that into 3 energy.
Yeah.
Then that shifted it to 2, so then I did it again. And so for 2 brown resources, I had 5 energy, which I could then spend on other resources in the game. So I mentioned at the beginning that developments, you can make developments for your planet, but there's 3 levels of them. The level 1, level 2, level 3. Obviously, the level 3s are much more expensive, so you need like 5 resources compared to 1 resource for the level 1. So you're looking to try and get as much as you can. And then obviously the big scoring point cards, the big developments are you need 8 of specific resources, like 6 of one and 2 of another. So you're trying to gain production, convert them into the things that you need, manipulate the stock market, and as such get the most amount of points.
Do you know how many players this plays?
Plays at 4, up to 4 players, which is what we played it at.
So you've mentioned sort of resources and energy, but is all this sort of pinned by money, or is energy the currency?
Energy is the external currency.
Yeah.
There is a pirate currency, and there are some cards that are like, hey, you can pay 3 of these energy or 1 pirate.
Okay.
Now, at the end of your turn, you're only allowed to save 7 resources to take into the next round. And the thing about the pirate tokens is that they can never be discarded when you have to discount.
Gotcha.
So you can take more pirate tokens as part of your production, but if you're ever above 7, you are not allowed to discard them. You have to discard useful energy out of your
This
hand.
market, the market and the stock manipulation, granted different theme, sounds exactly like Clans of Caledonia, where instead of energy and various resources, your resources are like various types of foods. Like you have meat, cheese, wheat, a few other things. And again, it's the same thing, where you could say, if you know that someone is going to need something, what you can do is, if you have the cash to do so,
make that expensive.
You can make it expensive just by purchasing it before their turn. And all of a sudden, if they want it, they're going to have to pay a bit more or find another way to get those resources. Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah, there's a few things that I haven't mentioned as well, which I'm not really going to go into, but there are some like 6 different corporations that you can buy, like you can get to. And if you get that, that means any cards that are sponsored by that corporation is just free for you from that point onwards, but no one in the game got them. There's also like end of game scoring things, which was like, okay, in this game, you need to have 6 planets. Now the game only plays over 6 rounds. So you get 6 turns.
Yep.
And this is where I need to say I won the game. I had a lot of fun with the game. And I can honestly say I am very glad I did not back it on Kickstarter.
Oh, no. The twist. He got us. He had me hooked in. I was already looking at the Kickstarter. So there's no late pledge. And I was like, oh, no.
There is a late pledge. And I'm not going to be doing it. And here's the reason.
Why is that?
Because the downtime was horrendous.
Yeah.
At 4, okay, so to give you an idea, this is a very old style of game, which is in games such as Twilight Imperium or other things, it's I take 1 action, then you take an action, then you take an action, and then eventually we all start taking actions and then we can pass out of the round.
Yeah.
Right? In this game, it is your turn, do as many actions as you can. then pass, then go to Ralph.
Gotcha.
Rinse and repeat.
I
Now,
can see how that's a problem at 4 players, and I've played game. I mentioned Furnace 10 seconds ago, but Furnace has a phase where everyone actions their tableau simultaneously. That's not really possible in Star Tycoon because of the stock market manipulation.
Exactly right.
And at lower player counts, I'm asking if you happen to know, is there a way to alter, like, is there a bot that would alter the stock market or anything like that?
Don't know. Because this is in pre-release.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, and I will also say, I think the game is pretty cool, and it's definitely got its place.
Yeah.
But Kim, who was the guy who was showing us the game, was actually taking notes. And he was some of the notes he was taking, because it was pre-release, he was like taking how long each player's turn had. Now,
So he was playtesting.
He was playtesting it, yeah. So he noted down that the average time of every player's turn was anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. So at a 4-player game, that was 21 minutes, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes of downtime before I got my turn. Now, I frustrated the players, not like I was doing bad stuff, but on my turn, I was all about market manipulation. And one of the things you can do was and also for the developments, I was siphoning through cards. You can spend 1 energy to get rid of the developments on the deck, put them underneath, and draw 3 more. And I was after very specific things for my tableau. So I on one turn legitimately siphoned through the deck 6 times through 3 decks.
Yep.
And that meant the guy to my left could not pre-plan anything.
Yeah.
He could not do it because he was like, there's no point in pre-planning it because you're siphoning through the deck. And I go, and he goes, I'm not angry at you because that's what you've got to do because you're trying to get it. And I went, yeah. And so because of that, that's why I'm sitting there going, I'm having a lot of fun when it's my turn. But my turn is taking anywhere from 5 minutes to 7 minutes, and then I have 15 to 20 minutes of downtime between.
I feel like even if this game, by the sounds of it, I haven't played it, but if it was played at 2 players, it will fix that problem. But
yes,
it's so easy to determine what type of game your opponent is playing in that case. So the stock market manipulation isn't that exciting.
Yeah, like the stock market manipulation would be non-existent. That's right. Why I was asking if there's some sort of bot which modifies the market between turns. There
are some events that happen, and there was one actually event card which completely we were like, you have to get rid of that in full release, which was basically on turn 6. The event said flip the end of game scoring condition because it has 2 sides.
Yeah.
So we were all working for 6 planets for the entirety of the game.
Yeah, for the
and they said flip
rounds.
it, and it changed completely. Now, luckily, what it said was you need to have 12 developments instead, which we all did. So no one was pissed off. But can you imagine if you were working for?
Maybe it's like that by design. So if you're already going towards one objective, you're almost fulfilling the second one anyway.
I think the issue I have is that this sounds like a dry Euro where there is 0 luck, or at the very least, there's very, very little luck.
Yes, and that's very true.
And the problem is that if you're player number 4, okay, and player number 1 has the ability to grossly modify the board state, and then player number 2 does the same thing, and then player number 3 does the same thing. Yes, you could argue, well, it's your responsibility during your downtime to see what's going on and try to plan.
But you can't pre-plan. And that was the big issue. So on my turn, I was very big on like, okay, I knew what I was trying to do, convert energy, doing stuff, doing it. Yeah. And I knew I had some of the longest turns because I was doing the most conversion. I was doing the most siphoning because I was doing, that was my whole thing. That's the way
your tableau was
set up. That's my whole thing, right? Now, I want anyone who's listening just going, sounds like a pretty negative. I really enjoyed the game when I was playing it. When I was my turn, had a lot of fun. It clicked really well. I understood what I was doing. I won the game, right? So I knew what I was doing and I enjoyed it. But the downtime was just excruciating. And so I don't want to be too hard on it.
I'll be honest, like at a game day, you want to be playing games. So that would have been really tough to sit there for 40 minutes.
Especially when I heard I heard Ready, Set, Bet being played and people were yelling. I'm like, I really wish I could be in there playing that.
That game did get loud.
They got very loud. They got very, very loud. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much more about it because I don't want it to come off too negative. But I do want to say that I don't think if I'd play it again in a heartbeat at maximum 3, but I actually think at 2-player, this could be actually really cutthroat, because I do believe you could do some market manipulation. I do think it does require, like you said, a bot that would manipulate it a bit further.
Yeah.
Just to help like the swings and things.
Yeah.
But I do want to say thank you to Kim for showing it to me. Thank you for the players playing it. I will keep my eye on it, but I am glad that I didn't back it and I got the play test.
For those that are interested to try it, it is available on Tabletop Simulator,
Yes.
so you can download that mod, and I'm pretty keen to check this one out, to
Look,
be honest.
I'd be willing to...
Sounds like a game I'm keen on.
I actually think as well, playing it with you guys would be a lot of fun. Playing it with people who understand those Tableau Builder, like market manipulation, and can have some fun and stuff. I do think that there is the ability to make it turn by turn.
Yeah.
But there are some things that some rules just don't allow you to do.
Yeah,
that.
and
So-
it's worth just reiterating. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's
Words.
what
Reiterating that the game is very, very much in pre-production.
Yes.
So
It is,
it's
yeah.
entirely possible that
They
the
could
rules are going to
easily-
change and they're going to fix some of these things.
There's absolutely going to happen, because we spoke to Kim, who was doing the playtesting for the guys, and there is a lot of notes going back to them going
Perfect.
And look, and they have said, look,
That's great.
after maybe 2 or 3 games with some people, the game really will pick up.
Yeah.
If that game played in less than 90 minutes, it wouldn't be an issue. But because it took us anywhere from about 2 to 2.5, it just felt too long.
Look, I don't
Yeah.
want to watch the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy before I understand what's going on in the first movie.
It's fair.
Exactly
fair.
right. But yeah, anyways, but that was Star Tycoon.
Well, I'm glad you had a great board game barbecue day.
Me
That
too.
sounds
It was
really
great.
cool.
I'm looking forward to the next one. I really am. I'm really keen.
Did they announce anything when the next one is?
They
Dave?
haven't announced
No?
anything yet.
Love for Sydney. Their Brisbane one's coming.
No
up soon.
doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt it will
They
be.
did the tour.
Yeah. No doubt it will be on one of my kids' birthdays. For any of the barbecue folk who are listening, you have this magic ability of organizing your events on the same day as one of my kids' birthdays.
It's like
So
they never asked you before.
They never ask. They
Yeah.
don't. They don't. So, no, look, thanks again to the guys for organizing that and hosting it. It's always a great day.
Yeah.
And I just remembered, I also played Age of Steam. I can't believe I forgot that.
God.
And I won. It was amazing. But I'll talk about that another time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we'll have to cover that. I think we might move on to our gateway game of the week.
Yeah, let's do so.
Just before I do, I might actually ask you guys one at a time to say the name of our gateway game before we introduce it. Damien, you first.
Cascadia.
Cascadia?
Cascadia, and with that we cascaded into
Oh.
our gateway game.
I can't believe we walked into that
You
one.
guys fell for that too
we
easy.
walked into it.
Yeah, these guys, I don't know if you see it on video or not, but you can probably hear it. They're not impressed with me.
I'm impressed that you put the bait out there and just
I did.
just sat it there for a little bit and we walked right.
But I'll
into
tell you
it.
what, you walked into it because it's a great game.
It was a good
Damien,
game.
would you like to introduce the world to Cascadia for us?
I don't know if I can introduce the world. I can certainly introduce our audience into Cascadia. So Cascadia at its heart is a tile laying game. What you are going to be doing is you are going to be building out your land mass, which contains 5 different regions. So you have mountains, deserts, swamplands, oceans, and forests or woodland.
Essentially, they're just little tiles.
They're little tiles,
Yeah.
and
They're
they
like
have
they look like a 50-cent piece type size.
little hexagons.
they're little. Yeah, they are little hexes. And the hexes themselves will have 2 different land masses on them, and the goal and all you're doing is that you are basically taking a hex and an animal token off the common market in front of all the players, and you are adding that to your tableau,
Your
I
little
suppose.
map in front
Your
of
little
you.
map.
Yeah.
And and then the animal token that you took with your tile, you're then placing that on your map wherever there is a matching image of an animal token. It is a super, super simple game. It has a number of different scoring requirements or rather goals, if you will, for end-game scoring. There is only one scoring round, which is just at the end of the game. And that's really it. You get 20, you basically do this 20 times.
Yeah, you get 20 turns in the game.
And essentially
then we have the
whoever
scores.
fulfills the scoring objectives best at the end of the game will likely end up winning.
So I loved how there was 5 animals. So there's the fox, the bird,
Yep.
The bear.
Bears, the
Salmon.
elks, and the salmon. Yes.
Yeah. And each one of them has 5 different cards.
Yes.
And then you can sort of randomize it, or you can pick how you want to play the game. Just the variability of the game was just insane.
Yeah, the thing I really like is how specific the scoring rules are. Like in our game, we we needed to score the bears, we needed clumps of 3 bears, but there had to be a distinct clump. So you need to have 3 bears and then no other animals around them, or rather no other bears around them.
You need a daddy bear, a mummy bear,
and a baby bear. That's exactly right.
Obviously right.
They're the 3 little bears.
Exactly right.
So if you did that, you get 10 points. And then the salmon. The salmon, you need to have a stream
of salmon, if you will.
And you got points based on that. So if you had any salmon that were touching more than one salmon, you get no points.
Ralph,
all of your salmon. Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, that was painful. I forgot what a stream of salmon looked like. But that's okay.
And then the hawks are super interesting. Like the hawks are probably my favorite because they typically don't want to be touching any other hawks, but they need to have line of sight of other hawks, which I found
clever.
Really interesting. And I know, Ralph, you leaned into that one a fair bit.
I did. I typically don't like birds in board games, but this one, in general, but this one was actually really cool. And I lent into the hawk strategy, which paid off as well.
Yeah. Nee, what do you think, mate?
I really enjoyed it. This is one of those games that every time I've seen it, I have gone, I don't get it. I don't get what the hype of Cascadia is. From a very simple design point, it's, you may hear us saying, central market and hexes and stuff, but it literally is as simple as pick a land tile with some little animal icons, and then pick an animal icon, like an animal token. That's it. That's the game. You just add the hexes anywhere on your board. You are trying to just looking at the cards that are in the center and just going, okay, I think I want to try and make 3 bears. Okay, so I'll group my bears together. Or a clump of elk. Okay, I'll just put some elk together. But then you add that with going, okay, well...
You just can't elk yourself, can you?
Look,
see, this game lent into the puns. Stupid wildlife puns.
I must apologize to the audience listening, because we gave Ralph crap about his puns pre-podcast, and he's trying to bring it back on.
Puncast.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow.
I really enjoyed it. Now, I will also say as well that I may have been suffering from the opposite of what a rose-tinted glass is, which is that I own Calico, Calico is another hex placing calm game, where it's like pick a hex out of a bag, add it onto your little quilt that you're making, a calico quilt with cats. And so when I saw Cascadia to start with, I went, I've already got Calico. It's not one of my favorite games, but I do enjoy it.
But the thing is, what Calico doesn't have is the Spiel de Jaris award.
No, it does not. Does this one?
It does. So the copy that I have is the Kickstarter copy, and that came out before.
And did it win
awards? I believe it did.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So there you go, the seal of recommendation. And I will say now, having played it, I much prefer this to Calico. Like, granted, it is a bit solitaire, so you can't affect anyone else. The only way that you can affect anyone else is literally by taking the hex that they want.
Yeah, but that hurt me.
It did hurt you, but
both you guys were taking what I needed.
But I never took what you needed because you needed it. I took what you needed because I needed it. Like I never hate picked something. Now there is one other thing, which is there are some hexes which have these acorn symbols.
Yep.
So if you place an animal down on it, you get an acorn. That acorn can be used to do a couple of special things, but the main thing that it can do is that you're allowed to then take any hex and any token on the board. Normally you have to take them as a distinct pair. But the acorn allows you to take specific ones, which is really good. They're also worth victory points at the end of the game. So, like, you have to make the choice of, do you want to give up a victory point for the animals? The answer normally to that question is going to be yes. Because they're only worth 1 VP. Damien, you end up winning by 10 VP in our game. So it wouldn't have mattered that much of keeping the acorns anyway.
That's right, yeah.
I actually really like this. The design is so simple that it's literally, it looks a bit complex when you're looking at it, but it's actually not. It's literally take hex, take token, put it on your board somewhere and just try and make it the best that you can based on the scoring conditions. You don't need to worry about what the scoring conditions are in a podcast like this. It's literally, you'll find out when you play, but they're just like, make a pattern. What pattern are you making? You'll find out when you start the game.
Yeah.
And because of that, it is really accessible. The color is really good. Now, Ralph, for the listeners, you do have
colors,
some.
The colors were amazing.
Yeah, so you have a bit of color blindness, but as people know, so that's why I'm always interested to know, like with
this one, the colors popped.
Perfect. So
the whole game pops for me.
Yeah. Now we did think so. It is very like reminiscent of like King Domino in terms of the lands, and so then obviously the secondary layer is like, well, once you've done your animal tokens, the thing that you start to look at is like, okay, well, maybe if I put this here, I can put make a bit of a desert tile, or I can make a bit of a forest or a swamp or a lake or a mountain region, and you want to do that because those are both victory points, and that's what ended up winning you the game at the end there, Damien, which was that Ralph and I were tying on the second so many times that we got 0 points, whereas you just stormed away having.
And that is only because I have crippling OCD. So thank you, OCD. Thank you.
But yeah, Ralph, what did you think about it?
So I'll reward those long-time listeners. We mentioned a game, we featured a game called King Domino previously as our gateway game of the week, and previously we also featured Carcassonne. This is if those two games melded together and had a baby.
Yeah, I'd say very.
That's fair.
I'd give that. Yeah,
and I absolutely loved it more than I enjoyed Carcassonne and more than King Domino. I'd say the simplicity of just picking what you wanted and putting it in front of you was amazing. Yep. The strategy of thinking, how do I want to score this, was fantastic. I feel like you can play this with anyone because you don't even need to be understanding the scoring to just pick something and put it in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you can play this with a kid that's 5 years old that don't worry about the scoring. Pick a thing, put it in front of you, make a pretty picture.
And that's exactly how we play it at home. So I play it with my younger son. So we mentioned King Domino. He loves King Domino, but he leans towards Cascadia these days more.
Yeah.
Just because it is a little bit prettier. I believe anyway.
It is.
It's entirely subjective, but he likes the fact that there are little animals on it. He loves the fact that it's more than just simply take a tile and put it on your tableau. It's arguably a little less restrictive than King Domino.
Absolutely.
King Domino is restricted to 5x5 grid.
This one you can just place so long as it's touching a hex.
And that 5x5 grid in King Domino, like if you play it on Board Game Arena, you can see what it is
That's
visually.
Right, yeah.
But when you put the 5x5 grid on the table in front of you and you're trying to build to that restriction, it's really tough.
You can, you can totally miss it. Look, I think I would argue Cascadia is actually one of the, if I was to pick attempts to say ultimate sort of gateway games, particularly when you consider it's a game I have successfully put in front of kids and non-gamers before.
Yep.
And we've gotten up and we've played. Not a problem.
Because it kind of feels like the puzzle itself feels like something that will just be in the newspaper.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it's very simple sort of puzzle.
Yep. It is extremely pretty. It's clear on the table. People can follow what is going on. The components are lovely.
Yep.
Going back to the artwork again, Beth Sobel is the artist on this one for any fans out there. She's also the artist on Wingspan. It's a game, so I suppose some people may have heard of. I don't know. It kind of did okay in the board game scene.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit okay.
3 expansions, okay.
Yeah.
And the rule set is super tiny. The rules are written over 2 sort of square pages. And the end game scoring is really straightforward. And then finally, variability with a family rules option. So family scoring guide option, which
that
is
would be cool to see. I didn't get to see that.
Yeah, tonight. So the family scoring options are similar to the more advanced or the regular game options. They're just simpler. It's just something you can just put in front of a kid and say, for instance, hey, get 2 bears together. You're going to get 8 points. I believe it is from memory.
Love it.
Really simple stuff.
I will say that this game does give the added benefit of, so it took us about half an hour, just under like 25 to half an hour. And
with the teach.
With the teach. But that time limit is the perfect amount of time to make kids feel like they've played a meaty game. Whereas a game of King Domino can be played in less than 10.
Yep.
And when you play King Domino, sometimes you feel like one game is not enough. Whereas with Cascadia, with kids, this can feel like, you know what, you get a coffee, you get a tea, we have a relaxing time, get your drink, we'll sit down, we'll play a game, and you can actually, in a couple of games in an hour, and have an hour completely go by, and the kids would be like, oh, that's already an hour. And I think it hits that perfect time limit of not too long.
Yeah.
You know, like the 3 bears. It's not, not too hot, not too cold, it's not too long, not too short. It's just right.
Yep.
For that gateway game sort of, level, I think it hits that sweet spot.
Absolutely. And when we finished our game earlier, I just wanted to play it again.
I would have played it again immediately.
It is on Board Game Arena, I'm pretty sure, as well. So I'm going to dive into that.
I also know that they had their own website. It may still be up. So what happened? I don't know if it was someone who was associated with the game during the Kickstarter campaign. They actually built just a web app, just runs in the browser where you could just play the game.
That sounds great.
Played it a ton during lockdown.
Love it.
It was amazing.
Perfect.
So much fun.
But anyway, but I think I'm looking forward to at the end of this year when we go through our top 10 gateway games again. I know the four of us hadn't played it when we did it last year, and I have a sneaking suspicion we'll see this one come screaming up the ranks in next year's rankings.
So as you can tell by all of us here, we highly recommend
highly
Cascadia.
recommend it.
Yeah, so definitely check that one out. It's available pretty much everywhere you go now.
Yep. I'm literally going to sell my copy of Calico so I can get Cascadia instead.
I hope Blake doesn't hear this.
Oh, he's the cat man.
Yeah.
He can buy it.
He can buy it off of me.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorted.
Perfect.
Sorted. See, we look after each other
Easy
here
done.
at the Board Game Gateway, don't we?
We do.
Absolutely.
Sharing is caring.
Anyways, guys, moving on to our sort of our theme for the week, actually. This house rules, where we're going to talk about house rules that we've adopted into our board game lives. Me personally, I'm not a huge house rule gamer. I'm very much the designer meant to play the game like this. We're going to play the game like this, because personally it's hard for me to draw that line of when does a house rule turn into cheating the game as well. But I'm interested to hear if there's any house rules that you guys have implemented in your games that help improve and bring a second life to this.
I know Nee has one that I'm about to fight him over, but it's fine.
I'm looking forward to this.
There's a few of them. Look, and this kind of just stemmed from the discussion of we were talking about, like, can you remember when we all did this when we played this game? It's like, oh my God, yes. And we realized that, stemming from what you said, Ralph, which is that a lot of house rules come from either things that we were trying to fix or just things we didn't like.
Or even like a misinterpretation.
A misinterpretation, yeah. I found that a lot of the older rules that we will talk about have come from people trying to change games. But I will say in this new generation of games, there's not really a need to revamp rules a lot of the time because the games are so specific and have really play-tested rules, whereas back in the day, they weren't. We did actually put this question out to our community. We put it out to our Facebook group. We put it out to Discord. And we actually did have a couple of responses. I'd like to start with one from our Discord community. Mr. Formerly Offensive Name, Kuntz. That's not actually a rude word, but he's from France. Does sound like a rude word, but it's not what you think it is. He basically said... he used to play in a Zombicide. His house rule would say, always apply the new rules from the latest edition. So that was one thing. But he also said that one house rule that he does, which is that in Carcassonne, the rules state that you are to pick up the tile at the start of your turn and then place it. His house rule has always been pick up the tile at the end of your turn so you can start to get an idea of what the landscape is before someone puts down their tile.
That's a really good idea.
Just on the Zombicide one, I'm a big Zombicide gamer myself at the time. The original rule was if you're in the same zone as another player and there's a zombie in there and you fire off a ranged weapon, unless you hit a perfect 6, you shoot yourself. And normally it hits on a 2 or a 3. And they changed that in the new rules. Whereas if you roll a 5-6, you hit the zombie, a 3-4, you hit the other player.
Right.
And I think a 1-2, you hit yourself. So I've adopted that as well very early on into it as well.
I do appreciate games that have living rule sets, like Millennium Blades, for example. That has got a living rule set.
I'm diving into Arkham Horror LCG a little bit as well. But I found with games that have that living rule set, they just ban some previous cards entirely, and then it's hard to keep track of as well.
We also have Schmick-Wahoo, sorry. He's one of our friends from the MacArthur Board Gamers. He's on Discord as well. He says, primarily in setup, he'll draw 2 cards instead of 1. Occupation cards in Feast for Odin comes to mind.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I haven't played Feast for Odin, but I believe that's to speed the game up a little bit.
It's basically...
It's to give you more options.
Yes, to give you more options. So, just so our listeners know, so for those who haven't played Feast for Odin, an element of the game are these different cards, and they're occupation cards. There are actually 3 different decks that you can choose to play with, and decks are huge. And when you consider that the game...
They give you your asynchronous powers. Really.
Sometimes, but they also give you other abilities.
Asymmetric.
Asymmetric.
I need to point this out. I've been listening back to our podcast, and we say asynchronous so many times when we mean asymmetric.
Maybe we all say it differently.
Maybe, yeah. That's another pun. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I had to point that out because if people have been listening and they've probably been yelling at us, going, "That's the wrong word, you idiots!"
Yeah.
Anyways, asymmetric is the word we mean.
We're learning, we're getting better.
Exactly
Yes, we will get there. But essentially, the issue that you have with the base rule set on these cards is that the decks are so big, and the game itself takes 2 hours. You may only see 3 of these cards, 4 of these cards, maybe. And they may be dead draws every single time. At least being able to see a couple, it definitely does make things a little bit better. It can certainly improve your engine. So yes, I really do like that rule.
Yep. So then Schmickelboo also said that in Carcassonne, for especially just get rid of the farmers, just to reduce the length of the game.
Yep, absolutely.
They're
in the base game?
Yes, but they're the meeples that go on the green. So you can it's either just road or town.
Yeah, so
that's it.
Roads,
towns, or churches.
What you can do, you can lie a meeple down on the green, and any surrounding areas. Well, if it's surrounded
bigger
by anything,
field,
bigger field, and you get farmers, but
where's the fun in that?
Well, it does help with kids who don't have to worry about green in the farm.
Yeah, making the game more accessible.
And then the final one that we have on our Discord community, which you should go to on our website, boardgamegateway.com. There's the links there for it. We had Carnival, who's Tristan, and he said that in the Arkham Horror living card game, he house rules so that you draw 3 weaknesses at the start and you discard one, and then you discard one of your choice and then one random from the remaining 2. So
generally in that game, I believe your character starts with a standard weakness and then a random one goes in.
Yeah.
And they can be absolutely game breaking.
And that's why he said that this is where, like, you know, in an 8 scenario campaign, it's not fun to play with a weakness that is pretty much insta-giving you.
So I don't want to spoil anything, but Tristan and I will have some words about this.
I did say to him...
I completely agree with this wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so he basically said, look, you know, so house rule it so that they draw 3, you discard one of your choice, but then you have to choose, and then one of the other ones is random.
think that's genius. I'm a house rule gamer now.
So that's good. So those are the responses that we came from our Discord community, so thank you to those guys. We did have a few on our Facebook page as well. There's been some really funny ones, but before we get to the Facebook ones, I just want to point out this kind of stemmed from the specific rule that we all kind of know, and most of the people know this, which is the Monopoly house rule, the free parking house rule, which is instead of any time that you have to pay money to the bank, where do you put it? In the center of the board.
Center of the board.
And if you then land on free parking, what do you get? You get all of the money. And I understand why this is a house rule and why people pick this as a house rule.
The game goes over quicker, hopefully.
Well, it's more so about being less mean because you're like, hey, you're low on money. Maybe you'll get an injection of cash. But the thing is, you don't realize that is the complete wrong thing to do because it's just like
makes it longer.
It makes the game longer, but it also takes money. It keeps money in the game that's supposed to be out of the game. And then it's like, yeah, people like to do it as the catch-up mechanic. Like, you know, if you're in last and you land on free parking, you get the money. But the thing is, if the person who's in first gets it, the rich get richer.
Absolutely.
It's even worse.
I just want to say another, I'm going to say this is a house rule because people don't realize it's the normal rule of when you land on a property and don't want to buy it, it goes up to auction. It's a live auction.
I've always played that. I've always played the auction.
The game is so much better, but typically a lot of families just like, you know what? Next player's turn and the dice keep rolling.
That's how we played it when we were kids. But to be fair, we were kids.
Yep.
As we got older, though, we absolutely adopted that rule.
Yeah, no, my family still doesn't do that.
With free parking, I grew up thinking that was the rule. And I only found out that wasn't the case one time when I was hanging out with my sister and a friend of hers and things like that, and for some reason Monopoly appeared on the table, and then I started throwing money in the middle of the table. Yeah. And then both my sister and I said, "What do you mean that's wrong?" And they're going, no, it's wrong. And it led to an argument, and the rule came out, and they put up the board.
I love about it. Like, they designed the whole board so each corner does a thing, and free parking is literally nothing.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, which is the other rule in Monopoly, which people don't realize, which gets house ruled, which is you have to have enough houses to build 4 on each of the properties. And if there is not enough houses for you to build 4 houses, you cannot build a hotel.
I didn't realize
Whereas people realize, people will go, well, I've got 2 houses, therefore I need 6, then the hotels, right? If I, let's say, had 2 on each of the oranges, and there are 6, so I've got 6 on there. I need another 6, then I can get the hotels. Now, if there's not enough houses in the box, people just go, that's all right, there's hotels. I will just pay the money that needs to get to the hotels. Whereas like, that's wrong. You actually need to pay the money to get to the houses, and once the houses are there, then you can take the hotels. So this is the whole point of the game, which is you can starve the housing market by just going, I'm never going to upgrade to hotels, and just put 4 houses on my things and leave them as 4 houses. In fact, it's an actual strategy.
You're hoarding the houses.
And you hoard the houses so no one can put houses or hotels on it. And that is a legitimate strategy. But people house rule it to go, well, I can just build hotels, whatever. That's actually not a rule in the game of Monopoly as well. But everyone house rules it because everyone goes, I just want to build hotels. It's like, well, you can't. And this is the point. We talk about Monopoly as a bad game. It's designed as a mean, cruel game, not as a game, but as actually to show you why capitalism is actually bad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people go, well, this was used to be what everyone played, so therefore you made these rules to make the game more
too
fun.
many apartments in Sydney.
Yeah, exactly right. I do want to go to the Facebook group now, and I do want to say that Tristan Carnival from Discord, he actually put one on Facebook as well, which is, he said, when we used to play Catan, we played a rule that if you rolled a 7, you choose where to put the robber and who to steal from, which is kind of standard. But you could offer to move it to the desert if they gave you a specific card instead. So I could say to the person, I will either take a random card from you, or you give me that wool that you just rolled right now. So it's either you can give me the sheep, or I will go to your hand and potentially take something random.
I kind of don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, so
it's not game breaking, and it keeps the game moving.
It does.
What I'm a
so it's
fan
like,
of.
but by me giving you an ultimatum, it means that I can put it on the desert and you can still earn income.
Yeah.
But you have to give me the card that I'm asking for.
What's the point of the desert tile?
It's because it's
the robber can start off the board.
Well, it's just it's also probably because of the amount of numbers, because you need to have 2 2s, 2 12s, and then or whatever it is, like 1 2 1 12.
But I'm pretty sure there's only one number. Like why couldn't there be 2 12s? That wouldn't be game breaking.
Well, it would give you more potential to roll a 12 than a 2.
I don't know.
They're still the same odds.
Well, still.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So anyway,
I can't ask Klaus anymore.
I liked that rule because I thought that was an interesting take on it, which is that, hey, I will keep the production going, but you have to give me that specific thing. So I can either cram your production up right now, or you give me the wool that is going.
I'm a fan.
And I think that's a pretty good house rule. And then finally, Lee Perrott, is that how he pronounced his last name? That's our designer friend, I believe it is.
Yes.
He said he uses this house rule to place tiles in Oleon. The rule says to look through and choose any tile in each stack. We make it a market of X tiles face up for each stack, where X is the number of players. This adds tension, saves time, encourages different strategies, and gives newer players a better chance. So Oleon is a bag builder game, and this strategy is basically saying, look, let's not make it as slow and cumbersome. It basically means that, yes, there's some information given away, but it means that if everyone has the same information, there's more choices.
Yeah, so in Oleon, there is a stack of tiles that you do get access to. This is especially in the base game. Mm-hmm. And typically what happens is when you are able to pick from these tiles, you can literally pick up the whole stack, go through them, and then pick whichever one you like. Mm. There are situations in the game where, especially if you can see what certain people are doing, you can either be super meanie pants and take certain tiles. Like I think the tile's called a turret in particular. But there are a few tiles that you can basically just go through, take, and really begin to steamroll away, just move away with the game. I love the idea of having a market, because as Lee says, it forces you to consider different strategies, just like in any other engine builder that has a market, where you can't predict what is going to come out.
Yeah.
It's great it's great that it's the base rules where you can pick things up and look through it, but I do love the idea of having a market.
Yeah, no, I think it's as well.
Really good one. Just one house rule that a lot of people do that realize it's not really. In the draw 4 stack on another draw 4, or a draw 4 and do a +2.
No.
You can't do that.
No, you can't do that.
Yes,
That's
you
Everyone
wrong.
does that.
No,
you can't.
yes, you can.
No, you can't.
That's a house rule.
No, you can't.
This is my house rule.
I don't care.
I know
You
you can.
can't.
Well, this is how we play.
I don't care. It's
Here's how it
wrong.
works. Which is
Here we go.
so +2s.
That's where
and
player count doesn't exist in this
so,
castle.
+2s and +4s can be played on each other
can't.
so long as they're the same color. So if I change
What?
Why can a 6 yellow be on a 6 blue?
if I play a +4 and I say it's a blue, therefore the next one that can come out is a +2
This
on
is an
blue.
example of a house rule.
It gets
is what I'm
worse.
saying.
Gone wrong.
It gets better,
Yes.
I should say. So
No,
we then also allow skips and reverses to be played on said
No,
card.
it didn't get
So
better. It got worse.
He's already dead.
Yeah.
If you play a reverse card on a +2, it sends it right back to the person who sent you the +2.
No wonder Matt hates you.
The color,
Yeah.
he's never played with these rules. The colors, look, colors must be matching. Okay, so we have some decorum in the space.
I was gonna say,
please.
so you can change the color just by playing any card.
Color must still be matching. So if it's a plus,
the card doesn't even have to be from Uno.
Yeah.
and then the other one on top of that, which is the skip cards. If someone plays a +2 on me, I can play the skip, and then it sends it to the next person. So it means that, hey, I can, we were just like, look, at its core, it's a bit of a boring game anyway. I just get bored with it. So we're just like, look, let's just add in some random stuff that kind of, and actually, to be fair, it actually made the game a little bit more tactical from time to time, because you were being very strategical and waiting for people to throw out skips and reverses before you start hammering down the twos.
Because you were jumping on the table and just wanted to strangle other people because you
I
were
would say
playing it wrong.
I'd say punch people in the
Punch,
face.
yeah.
But that was one.
That's a painful house rule.
The speaking of Carcassonne, the other one I just really quickly want to put out there, which is one of my house rules, which apparently was a variant, but I didn't realize this. But is like what I did with Evie and a few of the younger kids, is that I let them have 3 tiles in their hands instead of 1. So you have 3 tiles, you have 3 options.
Granted, you mentioned this one at the start.
So this one does allow, it does mean that some people don't get access to a couple of tiles because you're obviously hoarding them.
But maybe you can discard one at the end of your turn.
Yeah, something like that. But it just meant that the newer kids, rather than only having one option, just gave them a little bit more options to think about, so they could go, oh, I have this, and maybe they can start to pre-plan some things. So that was a house rule that we used to like.
Yeah,
to play.
with kids in mind, the one house rule that we still consistently do, particularly for my younger son, is when we play King of Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
The rule is that adults are not allowed to attack. Adults can only win by getting points. Just so for those who don't know,
So you can't attack at any point.
At any point, you can't attack.
Hard.
So you can heal. You can take cards from the market.
Take energy.
You can take energy. And you can score points. That's it. But you cannot attack.
Well, you're too kind.
We both lost our game of King of Tokyo that we were playing because we both just got hammered by people like the dude inside of Tokyo.
Yeah, and so it makes it does make it really interesting.
It would.
It adds a level of excitement for the kids, because for my son in particular, it just means that anything's got numbers on it. No, don't want those. I just want claws. I'm going to attack everything.
That's fair,
yeah. So he has a bunch of fun with that. And the other thing, actually going back to Cascadia, the other house rule that we do implement, again, for my 2 youngest, is what we let them do is we let them pick at the very beginning of the game. So their first round can be any combination of animal token and tile. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a matching pair. It can be anyone on the board. We also let them start with an acorn at the beginning as well.
Yeah, anything that makes the game more accessible to kids is always a good thing.
And I think that's what house rules were in general. They've always been a way of making something either more accessible or more fun for people. Yeah.
Well,
Ralph, what about you? Give us some of yours.
As I mentioned, I'm not really a big house rule gamer. Damien and I have recently dived into Frosthaven. So there's a new rule in there where you get your secret objective, your battle goal, as it were, and you draw 3 cards, and you get to pick which one you keep. In Gloomhaven, that was just 2 cards. And I think when I go back to Gloomhaven, because I will, I'll be drawing 3 cards instead of 2. Because that, generally, when you get just 2 options, you basically You see those two cards, you're like, I can't get any of those.
You know, but you also know immediately which one is better and which one is not.
Well, no, you always take the better option.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean, though. Like, you generally know there's one good and one bad, or either both bad. There's never generally a better.
As Damien knows, sometimes you get a card and you're like, my character, because they're all unique, is not able to achieve
Yeah,
this.
that's right. Like for instance, a good example, like I've done this in Gloomhaven, where my character is a heavy, for instance. Their goal is literally stand in front and just take damage. And the two cards I'll get will be something like defeat an elite monster with a single attack and loot the most gold in the round. And it's like, I can't do either of those. That's not my job. Yeah. And it's like, well,
it's like never do an attack or never kill a monster. But I'm the guy that kills all the monsters.
That's
like,
right.
Yeah. So it just, it just makes that a heavier game more achievable. Like you get more sense of progression from it. And some people might say that's cheating. But it's just making that game more accessible, I feel, and seeing more of the game as you achieve those things, which is really cool. Making the games accessible. Captain Sonar, it's a game where 2 teams of 4 players on basically they're playing Battleship and 4 players on one submarine. And there's a captain that says north, and then the person to their left basically says confirm, and the person to the left says confirm as well. There's one guy on the other team who's trying to listen out for what the captain's saying to see what direction their ship is heading. So what we house ruled is the captain says north, then the first mate says north, then the engineer says north. So they have 3 chances to hear the coordinate, and that makes the radio guy a bit more accessible.
Yep.
Because he's so crucial to figuring out where that vessel is.
And you know what? The radio guy will still stuff it up because why? He's had 4 or 5 years before that.
Can I tell you what I think is the best way to play Captain Sonar very quickly?
First thing in the morning.
No, it's the 2 versus 2 variant, which is not in real time. No. You play the game.
No,
I much preferred it because it became this really fun tactical game of talking to each other, going,
I disagree.
You're wrong. No, 3v3 is where it's at for me. 4v4 is a nice perk, but 3v3 is perfect for that game.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm okay with some level of cheating in some games.
Cluedo. I'm going to tell you about that.
No, I'm going to tell you a funny story
you go first and I'll tell you my Cluedo.
But in terms of cheating, like sometimes you play a big heavy game like Spirit Island and you're an hour or 2 in and you lose and everyone's like, let's pretend that didn't happen and just keep playing. Like I'm okay with that. We're not going to say, yes, we won the game. Like we're just like, we're happy. We're going to keep playing the game. Funny story about Cluedo. Played a game once where, not me, set up the game and you're supposed to put 1 murder weapon, 1 bad guy, and 1 location in. Yeah. We had 1 guy and 2 murder weapons in there. Oh. So that was a fun game when no one knew what the hell was going on the whole game. One of my family members, she was telling me they played Cluedo and her dad won the game. Fantastic. You win the game. You have a big celebratory moment, right? It was acted like he scored a goal in like the FIFA World Cup or something. He lifted his shirt over his head and ran into the wall.
Classic. Love it.
So that led to an injury.
Love it.
And you know what the worst part is? He would have gotten a yellow card for taking his shirt off as well. That's terrible.
All right, very quickly. My Cluedo house rule, and we've played it with me and my brothers, which is Cluedo at its core is an information gathering game, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't matter how you get your information. Cheating is encouraged. It's like if you can look at someone else's pad, if you can look at their cards,
we did that all the time.
It does not matter. It is literally, that is the way we play the game now. It's literally, it does, like there is no...
You may as well just make it a co-op at that point.
No, it's not, because no one wants to give out information for free, because no one wants to be like, and so that's why everyone's keeping it secret, but it means that it means that you get really people who are trying to be sneaky in really fun, interesting ways, and it just becomes this, all right, if I can cheat, how do I do it? And that's how we do it.
Yeah, my uncle's one of those. He's a gun for that. He'll randomly throughout the game wander around the table offering drinks to people and stuff like that. And he's always looking over his shoulders or he's putting his hand on the table trying to take away that bit of paper. He's free,
All right, I think we should start to wrap it up there.
Definitely, but I hope you guys don't judge us for our version of house rules of games. We just want to make games fun for everyone, and that's what we should all do, really. So if you have any fun house rules, please let us know on our Discord or Facebook. And that's pretty much going to round up the episode. So I'm Ralph, your host tonight from from the Board Game Gateway, and to my left we have Neeber.
Yeah, I'm the guy in charge of Discord and the YouTube, so head over to both of those things. Go to YouTube, which is at BG Gateway. You can type that into the YouTube search bar and you'll find us there. Or Discord you can find on our website, www.boardgamegateway.com. All the links are on our social page there.
And to my right we have Damien, our new host.
Hi, I'm the new guy.
Keep it up, mate. We'll see how long you last.
Thanks everyone, I'll catch you next week.
He is the new guy. We haven't given him the hazing yet.
We haven't given him a hazing, not at all. I've given him a few puns tonight.
It's terrible.
Come on, you guys fell for my cascade.
A few.
That was amazing.
That was pretty well.
Terrible.